What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Las Vegas Grand Prix deadline live stream coming to you from Germany at 6 a.m. in the morning. Got got my coffee, got some sims, got some lineup decisions to make. And yeah, it's been pretty interesting from the free practices. Mercedes is back on the board. Ferrari, McLaren still in the mix as well. Red Bull having problems. Um, Yeah, just a lot of some people are going different this weekend just because I think we're getting a little bit tired of same old, same old. So if you have any lineup questions, any lineup decisions, let me know in the comments. If you're in if you're watching right now, pop in, say hi. Where are you watching from? I'm here, 6 a.m. Germany. I actually got work in like 3 hours, so a little bit of a hectic Saturday going on here. But here is the lineup right now: Lando, Charles Leclerc, Colapinto, Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, Ferrari, and McLaren. That lineup will be different this time in 59 minutes time. Not sure how different it's going to be. Still got some decisions to make. Been kind of pondering some stuff overnight. Like, is Mercedes coming in? Am I getting rid of Lando and going triple Ferrari? Lots and lots to discuss. But like I said, if you have any lineups, decisions, questions, let me know in the comments and we will work through them together. But what we can do right now is we can go over here to my trusty computer and we can look at some sims. Writer over at f1fantasytools.com has come out with the sims after FP3. As you can see here, Ferrari still the favorite despite not topping the times in any of FP1, FP2, or FP3. Leclerc at 28.5, Sainz at 26.5, Norris right there at 26.9 as well, and Piastri at 26. So really, we can't go wrong here with any of those four options. Verstappen has crept up here into the 22-point range. He was saying that the car was a little bit better in FP3 with the soft tires, more grip, seemed to and he jumped up to fifth in the times there. So maybe it wasn't as much of a disaster, DEFCON 1 for Red Bull as we were thinking this time yesterday when they had a rear wing that just wasn't working. They said they weren't going to be able to overnight it, but they have the best driver on the grid for a reason. They have won the Constructors' Championship 2 straight seasons before this year. So that they have a reason for that. They are good. And Mercedes have fallen off a tiny bit here from the sims. Russell now at 20 points, Hamilton at 19.8. Still pretty good bang for your bucks when you compare them to the Verstappens, Perez's. Still not as good as Lando or either of Piastri or the Ferraris. So that is a little bit of a problem. But when it comes to the back markers, I think despite Zhou Guanyu being excellent the last few races in F1 Fantasy, I think it's time to maybe get off of him with Valtteri Bottas having a 5-place penalty or grid penalty for tonight's race, tomorrow morning's race, wherever you are in the world. Reach out in the comments, say hi, where are you watching from? And yeah, I think Bottas will in general have a better race here. Low grip track, kind of cold conditions, veteran driver. He should be able to get around here as well. As far as constructors, there was like a kind of Friday morning after FP2 kind of swell towards Mercedes. However, with Formula1.com's practice debrief and also the sims that have come out here, as you can see right now, Ferrari and McLaren still miles ahead, 64 points, 61.3 points for McLaren as well, and Mercedes all the way down there at 49.6. I don't think anyone's going with Red Bull because Max can make a lot of things look great, but Sergio Perez will somehow underperform something that's already underperforming. So don't want Red Bull in our squads either. The interesting thing I want to show y'all was that I managed to get a screenshot of the FP2 sims, and then here are the FP3 sims right next to them, so side by side. So on the left here is FP2 or post FP2 sims. On the right here is FP3 sims. So we got some risers and some fallers, as you can see. Ferrari has hit a couple of points. That's kind of coming out of like Max Verstappen has risen like 1.5. So you got to take points from somewhere here. Norris and Piastri have also fallen little bit, not Piastri as much. He went from 26.9 to 26. Lando fell a point and a half as well, as did the Ferraris. Ferraris nearly fell like 2 points each. So Verstappen's rise in FP3 did have a little bit of an effect on the Sims. It also had an effect on Mercedes here. They went from 42.9 in after FP2 up to 49.6. So that is a little bit encouraging there. Ferrari fell a couple of points. McLaren stayed within a couple of points as well. Alpine, Williams, I just don't think anyone's really, I think it's down to the big three here when it comes to Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes. That's who everyone is picking between in F1 fantasy this morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are watching in the world. But we can talk about the practice debrief here as well. Here, where we are. There we are. So Lawrence Barretto put these together as usual. He was talking with the Fantasy Formula guys earlier this week. Great job by them. Great week by them. They got Lawrence Barretto on their preview episode, and they were doing a show in the Sirius XM studios. So shout out to Adam, Rob, and Terry. They absolutely crushed it this week, repping the F1 fantasy community very strongly. And actually, before I get into this practice debrief data, let me get this out of here. Where are we? You can, well, you can't click on this, but if you can jot this down, www.fanout.com/F1-news/the-fantasy-formula-2024-player-survey. You can go there and you can let the developers of the game, like F1 themselves, know what you think about F1 fantasy, what you love, what you wish they would improve on. Definitely go there. Let them know what you like, what you don't like. They're even taking suggestions from other fantasy games, like if you play NFL fantasy, MLB fantasy, fantasy Premier League, like all that stuff. They are like all ears. They are listening to the F1 fantasy community. So you should definitely check that survey out. Let your opinions be known, and we can have a improved game for 2025, which is well deserved because it is a great sport to cover and it's fantastic fantasy game as well that I love covering each and every race. So anyway, back to the practice debrief here. So like it says right here, Mercedes got people talking in Las Vegas on Thursday night thanks to their scintillating pace underneath the neon lights of SimCity. But how real is their speed? Well, unfortunately, the F1 data did not seem to think that it was that real here. As you can see, we're going to go over here to the qualifying simulation pace. Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, all within 0.06 of each other. So it is pretty close, like a three-way tie or a three-way battle for pole. Mercedes doing quite well in the cold weather conditions. They've done well at Silverstone. They've done well at Spa. So another cold race in Las Vegas could see Mercedes kind of shoot up the charts here for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And George Russell, as Pop Pan Man pointed out on his race preview earlier this week, that he said that George Russell was talking about how Vegas is one of his top 3 tracks, loves driving around it, had a great time last year. So Russell in favor of it. Mercedes look on it in qualifying. Red Bull a little bit off the pace here, but we can never count out Max Verstappen because that guy just knows how to get it done. Other things here that we can kind of take away from the back markers are Aston Martin, like way down here. Sauber, also really bad, but just not as bad as Aston Martin. I just can't see Zhou Guanyu out qualifying Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll at this point, but crazier things have happened. Alpine down there, Williams not so good, RB, Haas kind of king in the midfield, or best of the rest here outside of the top 4 big boys when it comes to qualifying simulation pace. So that's where I'm kind of leaning. I'm trying to get a Haas asset into my squad. I don't know at what cost it's going to be, but that's kind of where we're at right now. So, and we scroll down here to the race simulation pace. McLaren and Ferrari really close. Red Bull a little bit further back, Mercedes even further back. So that gives me a little cause for concern here because it is supposed to be warmer on Sunday for the race or Saturday night for the race um, than it has been earlier this week. So that may affect the Mercedes more than most just because they are quite temperamental. They seem to kind of like just put the dice in the Yahtzee cup and see what comes out. So that's where Mercedes are at. And if anything kind of goes different, if the table has a little bit of a kink in it and the dice rolls the wrong way and lands on a one instead of a two, like Mercedes weekend seems to fall apart. So they're just not, they're consistently inconsistent, which is very concerning from a F1 fantasy asset. Let me just take another sip of coffee here. Um, yeah, so Mercedes is a fun punt, but I was also in this same situation last year where I was coming off of Coda, where all of or Lewis and Charles Leclerc got DQ'd after the race, and I was like, well, the only way I'm going to get back to where I was is taking a punt. So then I went against Verstappen, and it went terribly wrong. So I'm trying to learn my lesson here, and I'm at 6,800 in the world right now, which is not a bad spot. I'd like it to be better, obviously. We all would, right? Except Leapers Frog, number one in the world, who sometimes hops in here. So great job by him. He's in the F1 Fantasy Tools Discord. Go check him out there with some great advice. So while Mercedes is a fun punt that I kind of want to get behind, it just seems like McLaren and Ferrari are just the steady eddies. They're the ones to watch, they're the ones to have, and it's a little like template and boring, but yeah, they're just McLaren, Ferrari not really giving us a reason to go off them. It's more Mercedes are kind of like siren songing us over here in the other part of the F1 fantasy grid. And it's just hard to trust them. It could pay off tremendously. I just don't know if I can get there. One thing I did want to notice or note was that F1 Big Data, he always does his similarity circuits, blah, 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 blah. Las Vegas, Monza, Baku, kind of similar. They are more spread apart than most of the circuits he's got here. I think he does say that the clusters don't really mean all that much, but Las Vegas, Monza, Baku, how did those tracks play out? Well, we can look at those here with the F1 Fantasy Tools website. So we've got, where did we go? Monza over here in Italy, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes not too bad, and then Sainz as well. But as you can see here, just even in the constructors, McLaren, Ferrari, 1, 2, pretty clear ahead of Mercedes and miles ahead of Red Bull in Monza. And then when we go to Baku here, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz with the DNF at the end, but he was still on for a great weekend. What was he on for? Well, he had got position gained instead of a DNF. So I think he was on for fourth, which would have been 12-ish points. So flip that 15 into a 12, and I'm pretty bad at math. So it's what, 27-point difference? Yeah. So he would have had a great weekend as well for Sainz there. And then once again, McLaren and Ferrari miles ahead of Mercedes and Red Bull. And coming off of the Brazilian Grand Prix, where I took like the tiniest differential punt by going with Charles Leclerc against the data when Oscar Piastri was kind of out ahead of it in the sims. I'm just might go back into my shell here real quick. There could be like huge differential or huge gains to be made in the sprint next weekend that could make or break a lot of our seasons in Qatar, where people are going to be playing the extra DRS boost. The nice thing about my squad, if we go over here, is I do have 3 free transfers. So I've got a lot of options going on here. I can kind of go wherever I would like. but I got to make some room. I got zero point zero in the bank. So getting rid of Lando is the easiest way to get out of this. I'm bringing in Carlos Sainz. It gives me 3.5 million. I am getting off of the Joe Guan Yu train. That's for sure. I mean, I got to make money to kind of get off of it as well. So Lando down to Carlos is fine, and that gives me enough money to get the Haas asset that I kind of desire. And Nico Hulkenberg had a disaster of a weekend in Brazil. We can all agree on that, just not going right as well. But 6, 6, 11, 9 in F1 Fantasy. And if I can go back over here, I can go to his price changes here. So where are we? Nico Hulkenberg. There we go. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, negative 0.2. So not really all that bad. If the problem is it could price me out of Lando for the extra DRS, but if I needed to make some money, I feel like Hulkenberg is likely to kind of go up here in Vegas, just with the kind of form that Haas has shown. We can go back to the Sims here. Hulkenberg 6.1, Magnussen 5.7, Gasly 6.0 as well. So there's that there. But yeah, it's like get Hulkenberg in, gives me 0.7 in the bank. So if something bad happens, like I can get out of it, or I can bring Leclerc down or Sainz, or bring Hulkenberg down to Joe Guan Yu and kind of get back up to at least like a Leclerc Piastri kind of lineup for the Qatar Grand Prix and the sprint weekend next weekend. And yeah, that's where I am at there. This is likely the lineup I'm going with at this point. I'll 2x Leclerc. Let me just hop on Twitter here and promote the video real quick. But sometimes I wish I knew how to do technology. Oh, yeah, 6:17 in the morning. I'm ready for qualifying though. I'm excited to see what this shakes out. Ferrari were 1-2 here last year as well. So that's not like a wild punt to go triple Ferrari. It does seem to be a little bit of a differential in the community. I feel like some people are just sticking with Lando. When we've gone against Lando, it usually doesn't go well. But if I stick with the Ferrari and McLaren lineup, it kind of protects me against anything disastrous happening. There is the fantasy formula curse in the back of my brain where when Adam came on the show during the fall break, he was talking about how Oscar Piastri, it's only happened 13 times. That's what he was saying in their Vegas show earlier this week. 13 times that drivers made it through the entire season. Max Verstappen did it last year. Lando Norris was on pace to do it last year until F1 Fantasy Hub Rob tweeted out before the Vegas Grand Prix that 2 drivers had never done it in the same season, and then like 3 laps in, Lando DNFs. So I'm a little bit worried about the fantasy formula curse there. But yeah, I can kind of get different with the drivers. I understand getting different with the drivers, but getting away from Ferrari and McLaren feels like a little bit too much of a punt. I do understand the allure though, because if you can get McLaren or Mercedes in here, it's like 2 million in savings. So you can really improve your roster quite a bit. Like you can get, I mean, you could go up to Albon from Colapinto, Bottas, but I mean, you could also get Hulkenberg here out. And if you believe in K-Mag a little bit more, you can get him there. But I just don't like, if we go back to the Sims here real quick, like there's 0.4 points difference in the latest Sims between Hulkenberg and Magnussen. And there's a 14 point, or yeah, 12-ish point difference between Mercedes and McLaren. And just with the inconsistency of Mercedes all season long, like I've been saying most of the stream, is that yeah, I just can't really trust them. I want to. In my heart, I want to go with Mercedes, but alas, I cannot. So I'm thinking that this kind of lineup here with Nico Hulkenberg, Ferrari, McLaren, the triple Ferrari lineup with the zero point 0.7 in the bank is probably where I am going to end up. And if we go over here to the Sims, they mostly agree. I think they'd maybe like me to go with, let's see. Yeah, we go out here a little bit. Pierre Gasly a little bit more than Nico Hulkenberg, but it really is like neck and neck, like 22.2.3, 222.3. I guess Gasly's got a little bit more of a chance of going up, but that is where we are at. T3 squad here with 135.6 in the bank. F1 Fantasy Hub is in the chat. Good luck today, mate. Yes, thank you. You too, Rob. I think I will be going triple Ferrari. I think that's where I'm going. I'm ready for the pain going against a full McLaren lineup and hopefully having enough transfers and enough budget to get back to them in Qatar if they look bang on form. But Rob and the crew crushed it in Vegas this week. You should really go check out their videos, support the F1 fantasy community because, yeah, they're doing a great job there. So, but yeah, so Rob says can't stay for long today, but need to ask if you think Mercedes is legit. So Rob, I was just talking about this. So great timing. So I think that Mercedes are consistently inconsistent. So I cannot trust them. I think they're a great punt. They're a fun punt. But if you're kind of like protecting rank, protecting mini league, I don't think there's any reason to go against the kind of Ferrari, McLaren, just like wall that people are building right now in their squads. I took a screenshot here, Rob, of the difference between FP2 and FP3 sims from Reuters. And got rid of that instead of your question. And as you can see here, like Mercedes kind of went up 7 points from FP2 to FP3, so that's not bad. But the difference here in Ferrari and McLaren is just like, I don't know. I don't think I can get out of there right now. I think it's too tough. But I understand that you have run into some bad luck this year, my friend. So I don't mind it at all with the punt going there. I'm almost more in the realm of like, I'd maybe prefer to go with like a Russell. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Thinking like Russell just seems really on it. I know Hamilton topped FP2, FP3 yesterday, or FP1, FP2 yesterday, but Russell seems to enjoy the track, seems on it. He's always pretty positive. He always gets the most out of the car. So whenever Mercedes do tweak their way out of a possible pole position, I still expect him to kind of be top 5 in qualifying just because he seems to get the job done and he's always going to kind of risk it for the biscuit to get the win on Sunday. Like he's very much Ricky Bobby, like first or last, I'm going to go for it. And which I respect. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, but sometimes it does. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things. So I'm kind of leaning towards getting Russell in at like to one of my teams just to kind of have a piece of happiness should the Ricky Bobby kind of formula work out. But that is where my head is at. I think, yeah, I think Rob says, yeah, I think Russ Ham could be a nice hedge for a bit of coverage on them. Yeah, I don't want to go full Merc, like that's just a little scary for me because they've just been consistently inconsistent in 2024. Like I said, they're kind of just putting all the dice in the Yahtzee Cup, letting it roll. And sometimes it hits a Yahtzee on the first roll, but if they want to try and go for something else, yeah, we'll see what it is there. Leapfrog here, #1 team in the world, joining the F1 Fantasy Pole Position live stream here. Norris versus Leclerc on 2X DRS is definitely what my brain is thinking about. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, that's where my T3 team is. Their F1 Fantasy Hub, Rob, giving him a shout out. Yeah, Leapfrog is just like absolutely crushing it. If you could just like, yeah, you give us a little. I know what your team is right now. It's just a beast. So definitely. I have 3 of them this week to create, yes. Leapfrog's budget is insane, like, I kind of like my T3 squad that has, like, 135.8 million in the bank, but I think he's absolutely crushing that as well. He is the number 1 team in the world for a reason, so great to have you on, Leapfrog. Um, I mean, I should be asking you questions, like, what are your thoughts on Mercedes this week? I think for me, they're a little bit too much of a punt, a little bit inconsistently inconsistent. But uh, yeah, consider you're the number 1 team in the world. Would love to hear your opinion on them. Um, yeah, let's see. Let's see here. Lifu23 pops in saying, going with Leclerc sign still worth using autopilot or just stick it on Leclerc and save it for next week? Um, I think if you're using the autopilot, I would maybe kind of prefer like a Norris Leclerc lineup. Like that, I just used the autopilot chip in Brazil, with Norris and Leclerc in my lineup. I think like just for the upside of like, well, if one team is just a little bit stronger, whereas if you have 2 drivers from the same team and they're both struggling on Sunday, there's like no upside there. You're just kind of like hoping, um, yeah, so that's kind of where my head is at there. Like the autopilot chip is good for if you have 2 premium drivers from 2 different squads. So that's where I'd go with that. Life 23. Leapfrog chimes in here with his Mercedes take. I think Mercedes could have a strong start, but long run pace not there. Totally agree. Russell could randomly lead early on as he is known to qualify well. Yeah, I think he will. You'll get that message on maybe like lap 18 being like, let me know what we have to do to maintain the lead. And it's like, George, it's not going to happen. It would need to be a red flag and the race would need to end right now. Michael Liu says 2 times on Norris or Leclerc. I don't think you can go wrong with either, Michael, but the Sims are saying that Leclerc has got a 1.6 point advantage. So that's where I would be going there. I'm going to get off of these Sims real quick and just go back to my team here. Jonathan Howells chimes in. Good morning, everybody. It is 6:27. We're 33 minutes away from qualifying lock. So, yeah, it's 6:27 here in Germany. Let me know where you are in the world. Jonathan Howell says, I can only afford Leclerc signs or Norris signs. Not sure who to go for 2X. Won't risk Mercedes. Looks strong, but Sims hasn't recommended and not seen many others trusting them. Leclerc signs or Norris signs? Man, I do kind of want a piece of both squads. If you like the triple Ferrari move could pay off tremendously. I think that's where I'm going this weekend, Jonathan. So but if you're maybe protecting like a mini league, if you're chasing, I would go Leclerc signs. If you're protecting, I'd probably go Norris signs. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, if it's like neck and neck, I think yeah, still Norris signs just because Carlos is known to kind of just have his day. He's done it a couple of times this season already. So he can pop up out of nowhere. Um, Leclerc has been behind him in a couple of the free practices as well. F1 says, God dash mate, have a great stream. Good luck. Yes, thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. Good F1 fantasy squad to you. Arjan Kale says, Ham, Russ, Sainz, or Oscar. So I'm only picking one driver out of all of them. Man, that's tough. I probably would rank them sensible order. I'd say Oscar, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton. Fun order, I would say Russell, Oscar, Sainz, Hamilton. Yeah, I know Lewis had a good Friday, but I'm just not sure if he's like mentally there. But he did win in Spa, he did win in Silverstone, he's done well in cold weather temperatures. He didn't really win in Spa because George got DQ'd after the race, but he was second there as well. So maybe Lewis would move up the fun rankings ahead of maybe Oscar should be last in the fun rankings. I'd go Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Oscar in the fun rankings there, Arjun. Just because Oscar's a little bit boring on the radio. So there we go. So Jonathan Howell says, I'm chasing 85 points. The leader doesn't have two premium drivers. Most likely will keep Norris. So leaning triple Ferrari. Yeah, this might be your best bet because McLaren is supposed to be pretty strong in Qatar. Their car should kind of suit that racetrack a little bit. If you remember, Oscar won the sprint there last year. It is the sprint race next weekend as well. So if you have enough, if you'll have enough transfers to kind of take the punt on triple Ferrari this weekend, and then hopefully get back to triple McLaren or double McLaren at least with like a Norris next weekend, don't mind it at all. Really like it. Chasing 85 points. That is a great idea. If there are any more questions, any more lineup decisions, let me know. I'm going to take care of some housekeeping here with like my T3 squad. This squad is top 1000 in the world. So kind of going over there, team calculator. Let's see here. Where are we going? T3. So Sims are saying I should go Leclerc. That can't be right. There we go. Leclerc, Norris, Hulkenberg, Gasly, and Colapinto there. So that would give me enough money to get to Oscar. So maybe I will just lock that in here real quick. I can get up to Charles Leclerc, and then I will have enough for who did they want me to put in? Oh, Pierre Gasly. Yeah, why not? All right, so that's where we'll go with the T3 squad. Nothing too crazy there. They do have Leclerc with the 2X. I might just protect there and keep it on. I have the wild card, so if I need to do anything crazy to get back to Qatar, T3 is taken care of. The T2 team is the team I've entered into the Vegas Mini League. We can go over here. This one right here, the Las Vegas League. So if you guys have any like experimental teams that you've just been kind of like ignoring all year, they've been doing pretty badly. If you have any limitless chips available, I would definitely go there. Over to the Viva Las Vegas League. If you win it, you get tickets to next year's Vegas Grand Prix. So definitely go check that out. So I'm going to put my T2 team in this squad. So I'm kind of dealing with that on my kind of, yeah, I'm just going to see what happens here. What have we got? T2. It's not looking all that good here, guys, but yeah, maybe I'll just take the ultimate punt, try and get a little bit different here. I've got 2 free transfers. So if Mercedes knock it out of the park here, maybe this will be my triple Mercedes lineup. Is that what I should do? I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? This is just the T2 squad. No one cares. Yeah, we'll go triple Mercedes with this. We can, I don't want to take a 10-point hit. That's just going to put me behind the 8 ball. So yeah, we'll go Ferrari and Mercedes. I'll put the 2X boost on there. I'll apply chips with the extra DRS boost on here. 3X on George, or on Lewis, 2X on George. Let's see what happens. We'll get a little bit crazy there with the T2 squad for the Viva Las Vegas League. And then, yeah, so now I'm just down to this final decision for the last 27 minutes of the Grand Prix. Let's go over to the Twitter machine, see if we've got anything going on in the F1 fantasy world. Let's see, close this out. Share this tab instead. Let me make that bigger. Sorry. It's not super readable there for you guys. There we go. All right. F1 Fantasy Fuel says, getting ready to lock this in. Leclerc with the 2X. Norris, Guan Yu, Colapinto, and Valtteri Bottas. Don't hate that at all. Pretty nice looking squad there. F1 Fantasy Fuel. Rob, he's done it. He's gone triple Ferrari. I have never felt more alive. Tempted by Mercedes would be a minus 10, 20 to get McLaren slash Norris back for Qatar 3X though. And every time I plan ahead this year, I got screwed. So that's where he's at. He's gone with Leclerc, Sainz, Colapinto, Bottas, and Liam Lawson. Love that lineup as well. F1 Fantasy Fuel, 100 followers. Oh, nice. Yes. Good job. Definitely go follow him. Great account. Always tweeting about F1 Fantasy. Fantasy Tunin says Norris, Leclerc, Colapinto, Bottas, Joe Guan Yu. Adam hasn't tweeted anything yet. Rain is also live. Mike F is there. People, yeah, going with the slippery stuff. Yeah, and then that's me. So I guess not. We got FPL Croatian saying that they've gone with triple Ferrari as well. So that is kind of where some of the community is at right now. We can go back over here. So if you are wondering why some people were excited, we were excited by Mercedes yesterday, but then the Sims came out, or the data came out, then the Sims came out, and it just didn't look that great, Bob. You know, McLaren and Ferrari up here, Red Bull coming back in race pace, and Mercedes just getting it done by not having a great Friday. So, or a great Saturday. Ugh. This time, this kind of schedule for the Vegas thing is like messing me up a little bit. So I don't mind the early mornings. Like I did a deadline live stream for Australia, did a deadline live stream for Japan in Germany. I think those were like 3 and 4 a.m. But just like saying tonight, tomorrow, but it's actually like, yeah, this time tomorrow, I will be waking up to watch the Grand Prix. I think, if that's right. So Jonathan is back in the chats here. I can afford McLaren to Mercedes to get Norris and Leclerc, but I think it's better to keep McLaren with everyone else and just punt triple Ferrari and keep McLaren asset for Qatar. Ding, 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 Jonathan. You have absolutely nailed it there. While it is fun to take punts in F1 Fantasy, we also need to think about next weekend. So I have pretty much been rolling a transfer for 3 weeks, and it is such a good position to be in F1 Fantasy because you have all this flexibility that if you ever need to go all in or take a drastic swing, you have that third extra transfer that you can just do whatever you want to kind of get your team where you need to be. So, like, this is the long-term thinking that we need to get into here. I just think, yeah, McLaren are going to, in all likelihood, McLaren is going to outperform Mercedes this weekend. It's been happening all season. Mercedes has very, very few spike weeks where they beat McLaren head to head, but I just don't think it's worth it, especially with McLaren probably going to be really strong in Qatar, where it's going to be hot. Even though it's 2 months later in the year than it was last year, it's still going to be boiling hot in Qatar, and the Mercedes could be awful there. So you don't really want to be stuck with a Mercedes asset that's going to languish around in third, fourth, maybe like even fifth if something disastrous happens. Like we've seen it, like an Alpine can come out of nowhere. Haas can have good weekends. Williams can have good weekends. So that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think that long-term thinking will help you in the long run. I know that we are in the final 3 races of the F1 fantasy season. So if you are chasing in mini leagues and stuff, you are like feeling the pressure. But if you try to wait for your rivals to make a mistake compared to you, because it's kind of like if anyone plays Fantasy Premier League, like a lot of people go against Holland at the end of the season and they're like, well, if I take a punt now, like I can catch up. But then Holland's going to score 10 points and then you're going to be 20 points down as captain. And then you're going to take another punt. And it's like, but if you had just captained Holland, like the rest of the teams usually do, I know there's a little bit more debate this year. It's just like you can stay with the pack and you can make your differences elsewhere. Like you're only like one Joe Guan Yu DNF from the rest of the community from like shooting up 1,000 places in the overall ranks. So it's really not that bad. Like if we go over here to the elite data, this is where the global top 500 is right now. Norris, 98%, says, yep, couldn't speak more true. Yeah, glad we are in lockstep there, sir. Norris, 98%, Colapinto, 87%, Piastri, 81%, Hulkenberg's up there, Bottas is there, Albon's there, Zhou Guanyu, 20.6%. So if you go against any of these highly owned assets, highly rostered assets in F1 Fantasy, like it could pay off tremendously. Like look at this down here, like Leclerc, 22.8%, Sainz 12% in the top 500 in the world. Now this data is going to refresh in like an hour, and we're going to see if how many people have changed from like Ferrari to or from McLaren to Ferrari. Actually, that is a great idea. Let's take a screenshot of this and we can compare it after the race. So yeah, that is where we're at there. I mean, as you can see in the constructors down here, 99.4% for McLaren, 98.6% for Ferrari, Mercedes 1.6%. So I expect that to kind of go up a little bit, but maybe not too much. I'll be curious to see how many people in the global top 500 kind of risk it for the biscuit and bring in a Mercedes and stuff like that. As you can see here, down here, we've got there's still a lot of chips to be played in the global top 500 as well. So that's interesting as well. But yeah, like if like Piastri at 81.2%, that's influenced from the Sims last time out, where they liked Piastri over Leclerc. So a lot of people went with Piastri. It didn't work out, which is fine. But like if 40% of the global top 500 keep Leclerc or keep Piastri in, and he DNFs, just saying, there will be massive swings all over the top 10,000, let alone the top 500 in the world. Because I think a lot of people will keep Piastri in. I think they'll just be setting up for Qatar, be like, just hope that they can kind of glide through Vegas and see where we're at. Come about this time next week. The only thing I need to look at actually is where Oscar even was in FP3, because he was 8th in both of the first 2 practices. So did that improve at all over, let's see. Oh, that's the US Grand Prix. I need the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Oh, I can go over here, show you guys what I'm looking for. So Piastri was 8th in practice 1. Oh, we got some questions. Sorry, guys. Jamie Duncan, triple McLaren, Ferrari, or Norris, Leclerc, Ferrari? Not triple McLaren. That's for sure, Jamie. Not loving the triple McLaren this week. I'm going triple Ferrari. I haven't actually locked that in yet, which I should do. But yeah, I do like Leclerc. I like Sainz. I kind of like what we've been hearing from Ferrari. They've kind of backed it up in the data as well, backed it up in the sims. So that is where I am leaning this week. Rory Daniger says Zhou versus Albon. Williams too risky with a DNF. Yeah, I think if that's your only choice, if that's your only option, Zhou versus Albon, like Albon had a fuel system error yesterday, red flagged in FP2, barely got out of the garage. So I think I'd stick with Zhou. I'm actually getting him out of my squad because I am downgrading Lando to Sainz so I can get out of the Zhou Guanyu business. I'm going to stick with Valtteri Bottas because of his 5-place grid penalty on Sunday morning. But for me, I think I would go with Zhou Guanyu over Alexander Albon. I can just bring these up here real quick. The Sims don't totally agree, but that is 1 point or 2.3 points in difference, Rory. And it's probably better if that's a transfer that you can roll over to Qatar or even to the last race in Abu Dhabi. I would probably just save that transfer. The transfer is worth more than the 2.3 points that you may gain according to the Sims. I think the Williams risk of a DNF is pretty high. Actually, I don't even know. Yeah, as you can see, Albon here at 20%. That's the highest on the grid. Colapinto 17% as well. That's the second highest on the grid. So yeah, thanks. I'm very poor. Yeah, it is a little bit of a conundrum that a lot of us are going through in F1 Fantasy as we head towards the end of the season. It's been tough to gain budget since kind of the early portion of the season. Once we all kind of hopped on, like once Mercedes kind of faded out after or like right after the summer break, it has been a little bit tough to kind of gain any budget on the field. It kind of just feels like we're all rising together in the budget area, especially with the constructors. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, I was gonna go to FP3 over here and kind of figure out where Oscar ended up. Finished second. Okay. Which is not ideal. Leclerc back here as well. I only caught the FP3 highlights. I didn't wake up at 2:30 in the morning to watch FP3. But regardless, there we go. Sammy Valencia, what is up, sir? Thank you for always commenting in the videos and being a supporter of the YouTube channel. Which, if you're watching this video right now, just smash a like real quick and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way, you'll have the Las Vegas Grand Prix race review in your YouTube notifications as soon as it goes up. But Sammy says, I just penalized -10 points by bringing back Hulk, triple Ferrari plus McLaren. I hope it's worth it to defend P1 by bringing my opponent's same midfield. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, I mean, if you have a pretty significant lead, playing defense is never a bad idea in any fantasy game. Yeah, that's how you win fantasy leagues. So while the 10-point hit is never a good feeling, I don't hate it at all. Nixie713, another supporter of the F1 Fantasy Pole Position YouTube channel, says hello, and then says, my dilemma is Joe or Albon and who to 2x between Norris and Leclerc. We actually just talked about this with Rory. Rory had the same question, Nixie, and I said Joe, because that risk of a DNF for Williams is the highest on the grid, according to the Sims. Actually, both Williams, 20% for Albon, 17% for Colapinto. Those are the two highest DNF risks on the grid right now, according to the Sims. So that is where we are at. And then I'm going with Leclerc. If I'm gonna go all in on Ferrari, well, yeah, I'm not gonna 2x Sainz over Leclerc. But yeah, Norris was saying that yesterday McLaren's high fuel pace was pretty bad, so he wasn't super happy with it. This is also the first race since Baku where the whole like McLaren mini DRS wing thing has kind of come into play. I know the Sims are saying that McLaren is still supposed to be strong, but it is just something to think about. Like in the race pace, like I mean, you remember in Baku, like Leclerc was attacking Piastri over and over and over again, and he could not get past him. It was like, this is insane. Like he has DRS. I know Baku's like a little bit of a different track, but some similarities here. So it'll be interesting to see if that rear wing kind of issue like plays up at all. So that is where we are at. JB Duncan says he is going with Norris. Okay. Don't mind that at all. But yeah, if you're choosing between Norris and Leclerc, I don't think you can go wrong with either. But that is where I would play the autopilot chip like this weekend. Like it is very close in the simulations. So I don't mind that at all when it comes to that sort of stuff. Yeah. So there we go. Let's go back over to see what other squads are rocking and rolling here. I think Rain Fantasy has locked in his lineup here. Norris, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Bottas. F1 Fantasy Tips, F1 Fantasy Tools. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. So Rain is going with a slightly different lineup to me. He has a bigger budget than I do actually. So he can kind of go with the Norris Signs area. I'm going to go with Leclerc, but pretty much have that same lineup. So it's going to come down to Norris versus Leclerc for our F1 fantasy lineups. But 2x Leclerc or Norris, says Yuri. That is the big question. I'm going with Charles Leclerc over Lando Norris in my squad overall. So I'm just gonna prove this to you guys here. Bringing in Carlos Sainz. This has gone wrong before, where going against Lando. Oh, let's see. Jamie Duncan says, "Oops, Norris, Leclerc, McLaren, Ferrari." Sorry about my previous typo. Yeah, I think Jamie, there's nothing wrong with this, but that is the safest lineup in F1 fantasy right now. Going with Norris, Leclerc, McLaren, Ferrari. I can just stick with that lineup. I just can't move anywhere, and I really don't want Zhou Guanyu in my team this weekend. There's something about it. Just got a little bit of a gut feeling that Joe is going to have a little bit of a stinker. Jonathan Howell says, I'm going with Leclerc 2 times, chasing a Norris 2x. Yeah, I mean, I did talk about in the race review, and I don't know how much it really matters, but Norris, outside of like Franco Colapinto and Liam Lawson, Norris has the least amount of running on this track on anyone on the grid because he DNF'd so early. I don't think that really matter, but just something to kind of, I'm just gonna like convince myself that's why I can go with Charles Leclerc in my F1 fantasy lineup. So I'm gonna bring Zhou Guanyu out here, and then I'm gonna get Mr. Nico Hulkenberg into the lineup. It's been a while since I've had Nico in my squad. I'm going to give Charles Leclerc the 2x. We're going to continue this. This will mean that I have 3 free transfers heading into Qatar to kind of get back to the triple McLaren lineup if I need to. And bada bing, bada boom. It is done. We are done and roasted with team selection. I am going to just, do the obligatory, like, I voted kind of thing and post my F1 fantasy team on Twitter here real quick. If you guys will forgive me that. But if you have any questions with 8 minutes to go, let me know in the comments and we will just rattle those off as we go down to the wire here in F1 Fantasy. I've always got this little template of a thing. There we go. Going to copy that, paste. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this race though. The second iteration of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It seems like it's gaining some steam in the F1 community. People seem to be triple Ferrari and triple Payne on the table this weekend. Yes, let's see how it goes. Good luck to everyone with whatever they decide to go with. 6.8K in the world now. And that is where we are at. Screenshot. Boom. Bang. I think that's it. The lab is locked. Boom. Post. It is done. But yeah, that's where we are at. Where am I here? 11. Okay. Good Lando fact has something to make me feel like I've made the right choice. Yes, that's all we can do, really. Just try to convince ourselves that we have made the right decision based on. I mean, it is a fact that he's done the least amount of running here among most of the big guns, but yeah, it's still terrifying to even go with there. Adam over here. Okay, let's get into some lineup locks here in the F1 fantasy community. Let's see here. So F1 Fantasy Fuel Tough to choose between Leclerc, Science, Norris, Piastri. Definitely not going Mercedes, though. Yep, I think a lot of people we got excited about it, and then we kind of were like, "Ugh, man, consistently inconsistent." F1 Fantasy pit wall, triple Ferrari there, going with Gasly versus my Hulkenberg. Rain has made up his mind. I swear I saw Adam on here like 2 seconds ago. What am I? Oh, he locked it in 44 minutes ago. Leclerc with the 2 times, Norris, Bottas, Colapinto, Zhou Guan Yu. Dang, okay. So he's going back to the triple back marker strategy, which is interesting. I am kind of excited to be off the triple back marker lineup. So that'll be interesting. Oh, man. Yep. It's going to be one of those weekends. So I will, depending on when the lineups or the results are announced, I'm hoping to kind of get the race review done tomorrow because the lineups are just already done, or because the race is so early tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how early we can get the results and then get the race review out Sunday, hopefully first thing Monday as well. But I'd love to get it out tomorrow because then we've got Qatar to prep for in F1 Fantasy as the triple header comes in. F1 Fantasy, yeah, let's see. So, just go with the latest. Let's see what else we've got here. Just give all the content creators or all the F1 Fantasy fans out here a like, spread the love in the F1 Fantasy community. Don't forget the fan survey, guys. If you go to my race preview episode, there is a link in the description, and it is like FanAmp and the Fantasy Formula. They have a partnership or their conversations with F1, and they are really trying to like listen to the F1 Fantasy community, like how can they improve the game. I think the biggest gripe that they're going to hear and we're going to hear in total is like the DNF penalties, especially in a sprint race. Like you can only win 8 points in a sprint race, but you can lose 20 by DNFing. That is too much, in my opinion. So yeah, that'll probably be the biggest complaint. We'll see if they change that for the 2025 game, maybe get some pricing adjustments based on let's see here. Congrats, fuel well deserved. Booyah. Actually, yes, so the official broadcast just started. Consider a watch along stream. I am thinking about getting one of those done for one of the final 2 races. So I just need to kind of work out my schedule. Unfortunately, today I have work, so I have to get ready for work, which is an absolute bummer. So not today, Sammy, but it is a great idea. I've been thinking about it. I've been trying to get something that's like in the time zone, that's like not during like a Liverpool game. So we'll see how that goes over the rest of the season. But yeah, one of the final 2 races, I think I'm going to do a watch along stream for either qualifying or the Grand Prix. And we're just kind of going to watch F1 Fantasy Tools kind of tick along, and we'll just see our live scoring there. I'm going to go back over here to my squad just to make sure that it's all locked in officially. I do know that Rain usually does watch alongs. I'm not sure if he's doing one today because he is also up at the crack of dawn, like myself, doing this. I'm not sure if he's going to go back to bed. I'm sure he'll watch qualifying, but I'm not sure if he's doing a qualifying watch along stream. So, but you can head over there, Rain Fantasy, another great F1 Fantasy channel that does great content. I think we started about the same time. So, yeah, we kind of came onto the scene at the same time here. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Frank Colapinto, Valtteri Bottas, and Nico Hulkenberg with Ferrari and McLaren. It's a little bit of a differential going with triple Ferrari, going against Lando Norris. It's not full Merc, but that is where we're at. We are 1 minute until the F1 Fantasy deadline. And that is pretty much it for the deadline live stream. I hope you guys have had a great time over the last hour. I'm probably going to have to make myself another coffee to get through this, and then before I head off to work. But yeah, in general, it's been great. Settled on triple Ferrari. I was kind of leaning that way when I was going to bed last night. I didn't want to lock it in case anything crazy happened in FP3. But yeah, it's kind of been that way, thinking that Ferrari is going to do quite well around this track. And with F1 big data saying that it's similar to Baku and Monza, it just makes sense to go with triple Ferrari, and it should give me enough room to go back to triple McLaren for the Qatar Grand Prix. But that was it. We are here. It is time to head over to the sprint qualifying. So yeah, I will see you guys either tomorrow for the race review or Monday for the race review as well. And then another race preview next week as we are in the middle of a triple header. But once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Good luck this weekend. And I will talk to you next time.